Good morning and welcome to Gulfstream today. A happy new year, a happy 2022. Brian Nadeau and Ashley Mayu with you as we overlook a fast and firm, and you see the Tapeta course as well on another beautiful afternoon shaping up here in South Florida. The weather's perfect as we ring in a new year, and we have 11 races on tap for you today. I'll bring in Ashley. 5 stakes for the newly minted 3-year-olds as well, Ashley. A lot of excitement as we ring in the new year.
Yeah, there's a lot of action on today's card. We were talking just moments ago. It was kind of a tough card to get through to handicap, especially some of the non-stakes. Even the stakes were tough, but the non-stakes races I found extremely competitive today. You mentioned 5 of them, all for 3-year-olds.
Yeah, I agree fully with you, and I know you'll have a Rainbow Six coming up a little bit later. That kicks off in race 6, and today is the first day. There you see it there, 7 figures. That gross jackpot now up to $1 million in a tough sequence in race 6 that we'll get to. Plenty of stakes in that as well. So $1 million now in the gross jackpot guarantee. Big balloons here as we start off 2022, and we'll start off the card today in a tough, it's kind of a good synopsis of the day here in this maiden claimer for now 3-year-olds to start the card. We're on the Tapeta at about a mile and a 16th, the tag 16. Ashley, we have dueling long shots here. I know you went with number 11 Meccano. I went with number 10 Summer Shandy. Both offer value. Talk a little bit about your top pick, Meccano.
For me, when I looked at the race, you mentioned it's a big field. We're on the Tapeta to kick off the day, and for these horses, they're newly turned 3-year-olds, but a lot of them got started late in the 2-year-old year, and to me, there were no standouts on paper. With a horse like Meccano, this is a horse making that 3rd start off the layoff. I think we're going to see improvement. The last 2 races have been much better than those other races that we saw in May and July. So it seemed like some time off maybe needed to mature during those months. Help this one. I think from a pace scenario, it's kind of an interesting race. Some horses have been forwardly placed. Some have been kind of far back early on. This is a horse that I think has that outside post, which maybe is not the best for this runner, but should be kind of close to that pace early on.
Yeah, and I have this runner in 4th. We'll take a look at my early pick 5 ticket as well as we kick that off in the opener. I certainly wanted coverage here. I used 6 of them, Meccano firmly in my mix. I'll talk about my top pick, Summer Shandy, in a second. The single now in race 2 with the big scratch of Kirp's a keeper. So God's Promise, a little spread in race 3 with number 3, Codename Lise on top. In race 4, I'll go 3 deep in a tough race in the first stakes of the day, the Cash Run. I've got number 6, Fast and Flirty on top, and then another single in the finale of Opalina, who I think will be tough on the turf in the Ginger Brew with Luis Saez aboard. I'll talk about my top pick, my long shot play of the day here, number 10, Summer Shandy, 5-1 on the morning line. Admittedly, I struggled a little bit to come up with long shots, like to do it 6-1 or higher. Couldn't do it today, but there's several kind of mid-price contenders. And I think it's significant that Bill Therinos, who's also got the 4 in here, claim this runner. And obviously now that these horses are 3, Ashley, they can all add Lasix. And, the 2 solid runs to start this one's career, a son of summer front. Now the Lasix goes on. The draw's maybe not ideal. Rafael Hernandez is here. Bill's accustomed to him up at Woodbine. He rides at Tapeta very, very well. We should get square value as well in a race that we've kind of alluded to is tough to figure out.
I'm glad you mentioned the Lasix because that's a key thing in here. Seeing a lot of horses add Lasix for the first time. And I think with the case of Summer Shandy, the one thing to note, exiting that same race as Meccano, but different trips. This horse was shuffled back, kind of early on, and we've seen that in both of his starts so far, but he's at least made some ground up. Not as much as you'd want to see, but you have to think the connections. They've had a strong meet so far. They're 4 for 10 in the money, and I think this horse staying at this level on the synthetics is a huge play.
Speed in the stretch out, blinkers on in Lasix, Jorge Duarte and Paco Lopez on the 3. I'm assuming you think this one can get loose early?
That would be my go-to gut in here, just kind of looking at some of the horses. Has more of an inside draw than the other 2 that we talked about. You've mentioned blinkers on. You have to think maybe building some speed in there. And the big thing, I know this horse failed as the favorite last time out, but this was a horse that was coming off the turf at Laurel in a maiden special weight, shipping up to Pennsylvania to go to Parks and dropping. So this horse took a lot of respect. Certainly improved, not from a numbers standpoint, though. I will say the horse directly in front of this one did come back to graduate next time out. Paco is staying aboard here. So I think this one makes a lot of sense. You can see it's early money right now, but this horse is going to take some money in here.
Yeah, I agree. Quickly, we'll mention number 4, Miramac, who we both have. The morning line favorite. Tepid one at 7-2 in the mix as well, especially that 2-turn. We'll call, I don't know if we want to call him the other Bill Therinos because Summer Shandy's a longer price on the board, but contention certainly runs deep in the opener. We go to race 2, kicks off the early pick 4, $6,250 non-2L for 4-year-olds and up. We go a flat 1-turn mile. The scratch of number 8, Kurt's a keeper, to me, and it looks like you too, Ashley, really makes God's Promise an overwhelming favorite in here.
Certainly helps Jose D'Angelo's horse because Kurt's a keeper. You had Paco, you had Victor Barboza first off the claim. Without that runner in here, God's Promise looks to be the best. Last time out, he was second best in that race. It was first off the claim for the new connections, but he just couldn't get to Demena. I mean, Demena kind of poured it on late, was able to draw clear in there. Luis Saez was aboard this one last time out, stays aboard, so I like that move. Staying at the same spot. Obviously, this one's to beat, but if you want to knock him in any regard, 0 for 5 at the distance.
Yeah, I mean, she's a little tough to trust, but, you know, her best is going to win this. You've got Eastern Symphony in second, and, I mean, to me, it was somebody's got to run second. I didn't use this one. What was the appeal here? I know trying synthetic for the first time.
I'm going to give him my 3rd try in a row. I've used him in his last 2, and I think the thing for me, that first race off that long layoff was over the slop. Really never got going from there. I know Macho Real has beaten him in both of those races, but I thought there was an improved performance last time out. This horse was engaged early, which I think was key. Hung around for a share. So now I'm thinking that 3rd start since April, there's room for improvement. A new rider today, Leonel Reyes, who actually Murat Senkal, they team up pretty well here at Gulfstream Park. So there's kind of some appeal and upside in my opinion.
Yeah, 21% from a 19-horse sample, so it's pretty solid. I went with Camp Pendleton, who, if nothing else, should pass some horses in the lane. I don't know how many, but should run on late. Race 3, we are back to the Tapeta. Here, it's a $35,000 2L. We've got fillies and mares 4 and up, about 5 furlongs. Very snappy here. You go to number 5, Cozy Valentine, who's got Tapeta form up at Woodbine.
Yeah, I'm thinking this horse might be a price. You know me, Brian. I'm always looking for a price in a horse that's sneaky. This horse does have experience. Now only has 1 on the board finish on the synthetic up there. That was that first start off that long layoff from March to November. Actually made some ground up there. It was a big field of 11, only missed by a length and 3/4 at 21-1. And then next time out, they switched the tactics. This horse kind of went to the front there and tired to finish 5th. So I'm thinking from a strategy standpoint, I don't necessarily want to see this one on the lead today, but I don't mind this one if this one can rate early on. And I just think it's interesting to see the connections. You know, probably excited to get here on the Tapeta.
Yeah, and the post works too. They're out, you know, she's outside some of the other speed. I went with Codename Lisa, who I think is very logical. You know, didn't do a lot of running in her first 3 starts, and then this Daughter of Declaration of War gets to the Tapeta here at Gulfstream Park and really blows way up. It's Mike Maker, it's Tyler Gaffleone, a lot to like, and she's not going to let anyone get too far away early either.
No, and she's at least shown that consistently in her last 3, that she's kind of been in the first couple horses out of the gate. And I think the big thing you mentioned, stepped up last time, was still 7-1, but was on the drop there and getting on the synthetic. You had to think the dirt didn't seem to suit her well, and then you go to those races, Kentucky Downs. No, it's a $50,000 maiden claimer there. That's tough competition. Yeah. She still was 4th there, so I think the synthetic made sense for her, and she was a price last time out when maybe she shouldn't have been.
Yeah, I agree, and you're not going to get that value today, but she certainly figures. What about 12th Moon? You look like you're really fading her. I put her in second. Admittedly, didn't know what to make of her. She's now 5. She doesn't debut until November of her 4-year-old season. She absolutely runs off the screen on the main track for 20. Here she is for 35 on the Tapeta. I have no idea what we're getting today.
I had no idea either. I wanted to use her somewhere, but I think the thing for me is she was a runaway winner. She made an easy lead last time out and poured it on late. Now, that was at the $20,000 level. So some of these horses, they broke their maidens against slightly better competition. Looking at her workout since then, I mean, she's got a bullet drill, blistering, 46-3 here on December 14th, but nothing since then in the weeks leading up to this race. You can look at that race. The runner-up came back to win next time out. When I started playing the numbers games for the barn, they just weren't enough for me to use her in the second spot. I was a little weary of her just coming back to win next time out, so I used her kind of for a minor share at best.
Yeah, the barn's 1 for 21 on synthetics, and, you know, 11-1 on debut. It's not like they loved her, but I just thought maybe there was a race for her where she, you know, a starter optional claimer or something where she wouldn't be in for a tag, so take that for what it's worth. Stakes action now in race 4, the Cash Run 1999 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies winner right here at the old Gulfstream Park for Wayne Lucas. It's a tough one, Ashley. We go a mile here for these now 3-year-old fillies. You go with number 2, Kathleen O, who was very impressive up against it, dropping way back off the break in New York on a muddy track on debut for Shuck.
We'll see what she can do. I just thought the maiden score at first asking was huge. Maiden special weight competition in New York was only a field of 7, but she gave the field kind of an advantage early on the mud and still got up in time. Javier Castellano was aboard her on that occasion, back aboard today. I like that. Going 7/8 to a mile, I think the stretch out's fine, seeing what we saw from her on debut. I'm curious to see what the betting public will do. She's 5-2 morning line in here, but you've already said this is a pretty tough race. We have the same top 3 in here, just kind of flipped around and jumbled up. They're hard to distinguish just because they're newly turned 3-year-olds with limited experience.
Yeah, she comes out of a live race too. Both the second and third place finisher won, and it's a barn and Hall of Fame jockey and trainer here that are going to take money. I went with Fast and Flirty. We've talked a lot about these Kentucky 2-year-olds facing the deep and competitive fields there, and she improved in a big way. Second out for Brendan Walsh. I like being outside some of these other. She's buy into Mischief out of a Not for Love mare, and she already won at a 1-turn mile. So I think that gives her a little bit of an edge here, and she seems pretty tactical too. She came from 7th on debut to be 2nd. She was right mixing it up in 2nd and then, pressing, making an early run last time. She seems very tactical.
She seems tactical, and I think she's another one. She debuted on the slop. She handled it pretty nicely, and then to come back out next time out, she took a lot of play at Churchill, but you mentioned a 1-turn mile. She was kind of close to the pace early on and was able to get the job done. Tyler Gaffleon was aboard at that race at Churchill, back aboard her today. Kind of looking at the works, to me, these are what Brendan Walsh workouts look like. They're not going to be necessarily blistering, but they're pretty solid across the board. And for her, she was further back in the debut, but closer to the pace going a mile. So she seems to be handy and kind of a versatile type. So for me, I used her in here. I'm hoping she's kind of near that price, because if you get 5-1 on her, that's a nice price on her.
I agree totally. Let's talk Surreal Fantasy in here. I mean, she doesn't run at all on debut here, going 7. Safi brings her to Tampa. She gets 2 turns, and she freaks by 13. A huge buyer, a 7 on the Thoroughgrass. Now she's back at 1 turn, facing winners. Speed is her game, but she's going to have to work a little harder to clear off like that today.
I didn't know what to do, because when she debuted here, we know Safi first-time starters, they're not necessarily ready to win at first asking, but she kind of quit. I mean, she dropped to almost last in there. Then they sent her out of town, going 1:40 at Tampa, and she was just much the best. Do I think she faced probably better horses here at Gulfstream? Yes, than she faced at Tampa, but it seems like she really put it together. Luis Saez climbing aboard for the first time. We know Safi, repeat wins back-to-back. They're not out of his reach.
Yeah, she comes in sharp form as well. We go to race 5. We get on the turf here for the 3-year-old fillies, the Ginger Brew at a mile. I think Opalina is, probably one of the more likely winners of the day. We both have her on top. I don't think she has to win, but she's a pretty imposing favorite in here.
I was going to make her my best bet, but I saw 9-5 and thought that might be a gift, so I don't like to use those horses as my best bet. Obviously, that race in the Jessamine finished 5th in there, was only beaten by a length and a half, and had to come from the back of the clouds in there and got a great performance. Another local horse, Diamond Wow, was 2nd in there. Almost beat California Angel. It was a competitive event. 13 runners. Had some problems in there, but ran a great race. And prior to that, over the yielding turf course here, had a monster performance. I mean, she's done pretty much nothing wrong in her career. And for her, this is probably a drop down in class from her most recent race.
I came up with Luella Street in 2nd, and I know you found a trainer stat for Jeremiah O'Dwyer on a runner that had plenty of trouble in the Tepin last time at Aqueduct.
Yeah, the race at Aqueduct, had a couple months off, then went there, was only beaten by 2 1/4. I think the key thing here is maybe kind of looking at the stats for Jerry O'Dwyer. Looking at just that second off that 45 to 180 day freshening the past year, it's 26% from a sample size of 23. In the money almost half of the time with $1.65 ROI. So for me, she's returning to that mile distance, second off the layoff. I think she's sneaky in here, and I really think when you looked at her race last time out, she still tried to run, even though it was very different than how she broke her maiden.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you're going, because Opalina is going to be bet strongly today, you're going to get a square price on her. Number 3, A Little Love in Luck, ran in 2 very good turf races in New York to kick off her career. Didn't really make a dent. She gets to the Tapeta last time, really improves at 2 turns as well. She should be involved throughout with Paco.
Yeah, she shouldn't be too far off the lead in here because last time out, looking at that synthetic race, Paco gave her a great trip just sitting off the speed in there and was able to get up in time. Now that runner-up in there came back to win next time out, and pretty much when you go down the page, her last 3 races, they've been productive. You mentioned the races in New York, some deeper waters than she's faced in her last 2. So for me, looks like even though her finishes on the turf, they weren't on the board finishes, she's kind of handled every surface she's run on.
5 down and 6 to go. We'll take a break here on Gulfstream today. When we come back, $1 million in the gross guaranteed Rainbow Six pool.
Pegasus, the divine winged horse that flew with heroes mounted for glory. Arrogant, gun runner, city of light, mucho gusto, and Knicks go. Racing, the thunder and the lightning on the track, energy in the stands. Vibe, fashion, entertainment, all for one.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Brian and Ashley with you. A happy new year, a happy 2020. And we start out the new year with $1 million in the guaranteed gross Rainbow Six pool. Ashley, I know you put together a ticket that is apparently not $43.
It is
20
not.
cents. We'll wish Ron Nicoletti a happy new year as well. Tough sequence, correct?
Tough sequence. I had to dig in my pockets. I might have to go borrow some of Ron's coffee cans with his money stashed in them. 57.60 is the ticket. I went 3 deep in this first race. I actually thought it was kind of competitive, like the number 1 Navy Pier, the 2 Campeador, as well as the horse on the outside, the 8 Emma Crack. And then the next 2 races, I kind of took it easy looking at the race number 7, the Limehouse. I got it down to 2 horses, the number 5, Lightning Larry, who actually is my best bet on the day, and the 6, Concrete Glory. Race 8, mile and 70 yards on the Tapeta. I used 2 in here as well. I like the number 5, Tidal Waters from Mike Trombetta. I think you had some interest in this one as well as the number 6, Askew. Race 9 is where I decided to spread a little bit more. I go 3 deep, using the 5, 7, and 8, 2 of which are for Todd Pletcher, the number 7 Gingrich for Brian Lynch. Kind of a little bit of a price play in that race for me. Race 10, 2 runners. I think it's between the number 2 Strike Hard, the 6 Graphic Detail, and then race 11. I honestly think this was the toughest race on the day. The number 3 Utrecht is out, which is a key scratch. So from there, I think it's a wide open race.
Yeah, and we started with a wide open race here, too. I believe it's a 12.52L here, so we're 4 and up, about 5 on the Tapeta. I mean, we both picked Campeador, the 2 on top. I don't really think we love him, but that's where the dart landed. I was very impressed with his first run against winners after taking 12 tries to break his maiden.
I was too. I think, Warfeather did beat him in that most recent effort, but the big thing is he's got 3 starts on the synthetic. He's hit the board in all of them. I mean, that's kind of what you see this horse does. He always picks up minor shares. He typically can't get the job done. It did take him a long time to break his maiden, but then he came back. He was able to finish 3rd and close off the pace. Same sort of run, so at least he's consistent. It's a new rider today, Miguel Vasquez, who's always one to watch here at Gulfstream Park. So there's a lot to like, but there's also some reservations.
I admittedly might have overlooked the 1 Navy Pier, who's got some solid Arlington turf form theoretically against better, at least last time. I know you had a stat on trainer Cheryl Weinbach.
Yeah, we'll show that stat first to kind of kick it off, because I think the big thing is this horse does have some synthetic experience, but now we're switching. We're going from turf back to the synthetic the past year. 30% from a sample size of 10 in terms of wins. 60% in the money with $1.54 ROI. I think this is a horse to use. Figures in here. I know last time out at Arlington, didn't fare too well, but was in against winners for the first time out, $20,000 tag, and just quit in there. But 2 starts back, handled the yielding going very nicely and broke sharper. When you look at those races 2 and 3 back, this is one part of the early pace scenario and has the rail today.
Emma Crack, the 8, the morning line favorite at 3 to 1. Probably the best overall form here. First time gelding as well. 1 for 13, 5 underneath finishes, Ashley. I mean, you have to use him if you're getting involved in this Rainbow Six, but he's a little tough to take a win bet on.
I've tried to win with him several times. It hasn't panned out. I mean, this is a horse that won at first asking and hasn't seen the winner's circle since then. Winless on the year. They've tried different things. They've had him rate from kind of just off the pace. They've sent him to the front and he's closed. He gives a solid run every time. They just don't get the results that they're looking for. And last time out, 2 runners beat him in here. So for me, I know he's 3-1 on the morning line. There's a rider change who's ridden him before, but I just couldn't endorse him any higher.
Yeah, I agree. Late pick 5 time in the 7th, and we're back to stakes action here. This is the Limehouse. 3-year-olds are sprinting 6 for 100,000. Take a look at my ticket. You know, you hinted at it in the rainbow. I'm gonna, double up on that here. It's not easy. 4 deep here in the 7th. I'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in a second. My best bet of the day is a skew. And this is a type of race. In race 8, you could use about 6 of them, or you could use 1 of them. I really, really liked her win over the track and distance on the Tapeta last time. I'll swing with her. 2-5-8 in race 9. Top pick Grand Sonata. We'll show a replay of her coming up in race 10. 2-6 for me. We've got a replay of Graphic Detail, who I thought ran very, very well, winning on debut. And then here's the finale. And it gets blown up a little bit, too, because, I'm not sure about you, but I did have the 3 untread on top, and now it's even deeper than it was if maybe you could land on that one, or lean on that one, I should say. $48 for me in a very, very tough sequence that I think you have to spread a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think you did it the right way, especially we talked about it. The last race to close it off, if you're alive in any sort of multi-race wager, you're going to hope to have a lot of coverage in there. You mentioned Uhtred, first off the claim in that race. He's out of there, and I think it's wide open. It's hard to see, and those are horses that sometimes inconsistency is something that we see from them. So the stakes, even though some of these are more compact fields than others, they're very competitive throughout the day.
We'll let you start it out here. Lightning Larry, I believe you said your best bet of the day. 3-1 on the morning line. Tough race. I've got him in second. Certainly a major player. What had you leaning his way?
When I just look at Lightning Larry, this is a horse that on debut, just kind of going back and kind of looking at his trajectory, he was a nice second behind Hope in him. They had high hopes for him. He didn't pan out the way that we all thought he would, but next time out, he gets the win, and his only bad race was 7-ace off that bit of a freshening. Since then, he's been in the top 2 his last 3 efforts. When he won here back on October 14th, he beat Muted, who was kind of well-respected filly tackling the boys. She came back to win next time out. You can see he's faced some winners in his last couple, and Catton was a horse here, I believe, trained by Ralph Nix, who ended up winning the inaugural stakes at Tampa. And this one was trying to chase him down, just going to do it in the end, missed by 2.5. So I thought it was a big effort from this one, and he seems to be training well. He's got a great breeze in here, the fastest of 46 workers at the distance. So he's hard to knock. You use him in second. We're kind of flip-flopped here, but I think we agree these are the 2 that stood out.
Yeah, proven stakes form and good races as well. So he in very, the most consistent form as well. We're going to bring up a replay of Concrete Glory, who basically just had everything go against him last time. And we're going to show the start, and then we're going to show off the far turn. And, he's a horse that wants to be involved early, and he didn't break, and he found himself on the hard chase here. And this is, by the way, after, here he is down, he's the 1 down inside now. And this is after, he didn't even get to the track till about, a minute to post. They had to reshoe him. Not positive it was 2 shoes. It was definitely 1. Could have been 3. He wasn't a happy camper. And I just thought, for all that got thrown at him here, and you can see his big wins, he's dueling or on the lead. I just thought for all that was thrown at him this day, he ran huge. By the way, Cyber Viking came back to beat an odds-on Todd Pletcher horse the other day here, so the race plays a little bit. And I just thought the fact that, here he is, he's trying to tip out now, and he gets in gear here. I was like, wow, good for this horse. And I don't know what kind of price you're going to get. He showed a new dimension in here. If nobody goes early, he can go. To me, at 9-2 or anywhere remotely close, I know he bombed at Tampa in the stakes, but you look at his races here, and they are really good, Ashley.
He's actually just been a cool horse to watch. When he first came here, we saw those back-to-back wins, one at Presque Isle Down, one at Thistledown, and he was runaway winner with an 84 buyer. And he comes here, and we look at him, and I remember this. We're like, well, what's going to happen? I mean, this is a deeper waters than he had faced, and he was just a runaway winner here on November 11th. He didn't do well at Tampa. I'm going to draw a line through the race. I know that Lightning Larry, my top pick in here, handled Tampa fine, but it's just a different track and it's a different surface. And then he came back here, and actually, you show that replay, you kind of feel bad for the connections that the lead up to the race didn't pan out. You prep for a race for so long, and then all that stuff happens. The shoe repair, it doesn't pan out. But for me, I loved seeing that from him because he showed that versatility. You kind of look at him, is he a one-trick pony? Not really. He was able to close from off of it. So I thought it was a huge effort. You mentioned Cyber Viking, a winner yesterday. And Cyber Viking was the pace setter in there. So it set up for him, and this horse was doing all the hard work at the end.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Other Revolution, we both got in third, 2 for 2 for Safi. Both wins right here, so certainly he's a player from up close or just off the pace in a race where contention runs pretty deep. Late pick 4-time in the 8th, and this is a real problem, I think. If I kind of get lucky in that I've got my best bet of the day in this 12.5 2L on the Tapeta, had about 1.70 miles, but Ashley, I went with number 6, Askew. If it's not her, who is it? And so I at least I have the benefit of at least being able to narrow down.
You narrowed down. I think you have a lot of confidence in that last race, and I would say rightfully so. This is a horse that took the plunge, tried a new surface, and stretched out from 7/8 on the dirt in Kentucky, came here at 1.70 miles, and got a beautiful trip from Julian on that day and was able to get the job done. Now, the thing for me, facing winners for the first time out, maybe a tall task, but several of these horses, when I kind of flip through the PPs, they've had their fair share to pick up that second lifetime win. They haven't done so. So from a numbers perspective, he's 62, is one of the best in the field and looks fresh. And for me, has that one work coming in here that's a pretty strong one.
Yeah, and you really hinted at it because the rest of the body of this field, as you said perfectly, has had their chances. She's 1 for 1 on the Tapeta. To me, she only goes up. Yeah, maybe she stumbles a little bit facing winners, but there's upside here. Jack Sisterson's brought live horses down this winter. I would think you're thinking along my lines with Tidal Waters, maybe on the stretch out today on a little bit of a send mission from Edwin Gonzalez, who rides this Tapeta very well. Maybe she gets brave.
I think she's going to get brave because she got brave 2 starts back on the turf at Laurel in a bid field of 10, was able to kind of be in that top call, the top 2 there early on, and drew clear. Now, she had 2 months off. She came here. She tried a new surface. I think the effort was respectable. It was facing slightly tougher, in for the 20 tag, now in for 12.5 today. She's got a couple works from that race. And now second off, I mean, this is an angle Mike Trombetta finds a lot of success at. He's over 20% on this angle. That's kind of like what I like to see with these horses. So for me, she's got some good races. I mean, if you go back to her last 4, I'd say she only has 1 bad race, and that was 3 starts back.
Yeah, Cosi underneath for you and La Rusia underneath for me, 1 for 26, 11 seconds, and Cosia 1 for 14. So that's the kind of spots they like running in. Back to Stakes Company here in the 9th and the 10th as well. This is the Dania Beach 3-year-olds on the turf for $100,000. A mile on the turf. We both have Grand Sonata on top. That's a good segue because we'll show a replay of all sorts of trouble he had last time at Aqueduct. And he's the 5 in the back here, the Whisper Hill Farm colors that we know so well. And, he's entering the far turn now with not a lot of room or anywhere really to go. And he almost drops back a little bit. And then the trouble's really going to start. And Ashley, for him to be beaten less than 2 lengths with this kind of trouble, by the way, facing winners for the first time, and he hadn't even won a race on turf, I thought it was a pretty sharp effort.
I thought it was a huge effort from him because this was obviously, again, I said this earlier with some of these horses. I like seeing some versatility on the dirt. This was a send mission. Now on the turf, they rated. And you can see here, this is a ton of trouble looking for room, then moved off the rail, has a slew of horses in front of him on that occasion, and still kind of angles out at this point and tries to tip wide to get the job done, and just, kind of runs out of racetrack to do so. That obviously took a lot out of him, kind of having to be shuffled around and positioned all over the racetrack, and that was facing stakes competition for the first time.
Yeah, I agree. Now, the post theoretically is not any great shakes, but we have 2 scratches here, so he'll be able to move in a little bit. Number 7, Gingrich for you. I thought ran very, very well over yielding ground on Keeneland. Is going to have to bridge the gap to Stakes Company. Picks up Paco today. Everything Brian Lynch has been sending out has been very, very live at the meet.
Yeah, he's been in the winner's circle quite a few times, even the last couple of days. And this is a colt that they started him at 5.5. Clearly too short for him. Ever since going to the 1 mile and a 16th in the mile races, he's fared well. All of them in Kentucky, deep fields, kind of tough fields in my opinion. And I thought last time out, I know he was favored, but the yielding going different than the ground that he was on before. A lot more moisture in it. And he was just much the best in that field of 11. So The big thing with him, we've seen Grand Senat on the dirt, forwardly placed, ran into trouble last time out. This is a horse that I think he's going to be not towards the front early on. Now, Paco's on him, which may maybe you think otherwise, but I think he's going to have to carve out a trip, which may be kind of tough for him to do.
If there's a speed of the speed, I think it's clearly the 5 Shansu, who wired last time going 6, now is going to stretch out. There is other speed. This horse is very fast, though.
He's extremely fast. In that race at Aqueduct, first time on the turf, 45 3 to the half. He was favored in there, and he did what he was supposed to do. He's kind of the other Pletcher in our opinions in here, but I know if you use one, you have to use the other. Loose Eyes getting the call aboard this one. Kind of looking at those workouts since coming to Palm Beach Downs, 4 of them, 2 of them very, very strong. Even the most recent leading up to this on Christmas Eve. I like seeing those works. It's hard to kind of toss this out. And, you know, Loose Eyes, I don't mean aggressive in a bad way, but he's a little bit more of an aggressive rider and strategic early on. So I think this is going to be a horse that's going to roll.
The 2 Smoking Tea in the mix for Shug and Javier Castellano, who could have themselves a big day as well. The 10th is the feature, and it's exciting because we start the path down to the $1 million Florida Derby today in the Mucho Macho Man. $150,000 on the line. These newly minted 3-year-olds going a 1-turn mile. We're going to start it with the 6 graphic detail just because I have a replay to show on a horse that I thought ran very, very well on debut at Belmont. Now, I understand he's stalking a pretty intense duel here, and Triple Elvis wins the battle and loses the war, but this is a Belmont firster, and he's got to make up about 4 or 5 lengths entering the far turn here. Bill's not a guy that really cranks him on debut. The 2-horse down, almost being passed here on the outside. He's 3rd right now. Anytime, Ashley, I see a Montfurster win with a 2-year-old, I take extra notice. And I was impressed on how this horse really wanted to win today. Yes, it was slowing. The pace was taking a big effect, but he really strided out nicely late.
You could see he needs some guidance, too, from Eric Kensel to kind of figure out where to go, right? He wasn't really moving too much, but you could see he was like, kind of guide me where you want me to go, and he kind of moved up from there. He looked great in those final strides to the wire, and I did want to show a trainer stat here. You mentioned, just kind of on the note of first-time starters for Bill, always something to watch when they win, but I wanted to look at maiden winners last out. This is a horse that's going from the 6 furlong distance, stretching out to a mile. There's not a big sample here, so I went back to the last 5 years, and Bill's 29% with this angle, 46% of the money with a $2.29 ROI. So I think putting it all together, we saw a pretty nice performance last time out, and it wouldn't be surprising to see a repeat one today on the stretch out.
I think Strike Hard's clearly the horse to beat for Matt Williams. You've got him on top. The run last time in a good field, too. I know they like AP Secret. Skippy Longstocking, who he faces again today, was in there as well. He was very impressive last time.
He was very impressive. Once he got to the front, he was able to kick on from there. And you look at the effort 2 back. He had to face White Abario, who had those 2 wins back-to-back. They put him in deeper waters, and he was beaten. I believe he was nominated to this race, but they're going to wait for one of the other races on the road to the Florida Derby. So he's faced nice horses. His only, I guess, poor performance is they took a stab, and I can't blame him. When you see a horse doing well, they went for a grade 3. They shipped him out of town. And he didn't fare too well in the Iroquois, but his local races, especially his 1-mile races, they have been really good.
Simplification. What do you get today? Absolutely awesome. 2 back over Florida bred maidens. A very poor effort at 1-5. Last time on the rise into open optional claimers. They're trying again. That's a good sign. But how's he firing today?
I'm not sure. I mean, he had such an epic performance. You see a 92 buyer, then you see a 3rd place finish with a 53. It just was obviously not the same thing we were seeing. I know he went a little quicker early on November 13th, but when you kind of look at 45 and 4 is a little slower when you're looking at that time for the half. So for me, I don't know which version you're going to get. Maybe we should see how Of a Revolution races earlier on the card to get kind of an indicator, because he was the winner of that most recent race.
We'll wrap it up in the 11th. We're back on the Tapeta $10,000 claimer here. About a mile and a 16th, 4-year-olds and up. We scratch out the 3, who I think was the horse to beat. We both have the exacta. You've got it reversed. Timmy M on top off the Danny Pita claim.
First off, the claim for the connections, not something they do too often. I just think the last 3 have really been a step up from Timmy M. And the big thing that's in common for those races, they've all been going long on the Tapeta. So that stood out to me. And this is one that I think the big thing to note, I know 3 starts back. The winner was Uhtred. and this one was close to the pace, but typically he's going to be closing from off of it, so he'll need some pace to run at. And looking at his last 2 Tapeta races, I mean, he had enough to run at late, which set up for him.
Farley, the 5, is going to give him some of that pace because he was up and close to it last time. A big second with a fast figure. If he fires back to that race, he's going to be tough. Marissa's Mission in the mix as well. We somehow actually come up with the same try box here in a race that was, we thought, pretty tough on paper. That wraps up the 11 on a 5 stakes 3-year-old card. But before we leave you, we've got the lightning round to take a quick look at. We did run 3 stakes yesterday. Caratari continued his love affair for the Gulfstream turf, but Always Shopping got back on the beam, defending her title in the Via Borghese.
Just kind of looking at the stretch run here. Graham Motion's horse in here, the number 7 Harajuku, just was flying late. I always feel so bad for this filly. When I saw her in the walking rank, she's not a big filly, but Always Shopping was so game and wouldn't let her go by. So got another win. Todd Pletcher horses. Hard to leave off your tickets at this point.
Very, very game and a form reversal for her as well. Good to see it. As we mentioned at the start, Rainbow 6 time here, $1 million in the gross guaranteed jackpot. Ashley put together a ticket. You can find it online, and she'll be back later to give it out. Tough sequence, Ashley.
Really tough. I didn't think this was going to be my resolution to have to give out Rainbow 6 tickets today, but I went with a $57 play in there, but I really think I could have gone deeper because I think kind of the beginning of the sequence and the end of the sequence, really tough legs.
Beat the Expert is back as well, and I am in the hot seat again today. Had a decent Saturday, a few back, and we'll see what we can come up with today. Gulfstreampark.com. You can check it out in there on... we've all got to do it, Ashley, right? It doesn't mean we love to be in that hot seat, but we'll see how it shakes out today.
Yeah, I haven't been in the hot seat yet, so I'm enjoying this right now. But I think I'll have some winners looking at our selections. At least we think we both will in some of the races.
Let's knock on wood, hope. And we'd be remiss if on January 1st we didn't wish every horse out there that we love and care for a happy birthday. Nick's Go here winning the Pegasus last year, and he'll be joining the cast again this year as he's going to face Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile winner Life as Good. Happy birthday to all the thoroughbreds out there that make our job what we love to do. Ashley, this is a monumental clash shaping up in the Pegasus.
Yeah, we just had New Year's Eve yesterday, starting off the new year in 2022, and January also means Pegasus, so there's a lot to look forward to in this first month of the new year, and it'll be interesting to see how the Pegasus field shapes up.
All right, Brian and Ashley, on Happy New Year to you. Gulfstream today. We'll send it up to announcer Pete for the scratches and changes. 20 minutes to post for the opener and the early pick 5. We'll be back with you all day long. Good luck.
Pegasus, the divine winged horse that flew with heroes mounted for glory. Here begins our story of legendary times, the rarefied air when the stakes are high. Like the moment when you feel the vibe, the thunder and the lightning on the track, the energy in the stands, like music moving through your soul, shaking your hips, making you dance. The stars come out in the magic city. Pegasus they stay, dressed in designers' newest finds, wishing all days could be like this. A moment in the sun, where everything is divine. Racing, vibe, fashion, entertainment. Arrogant, gun runner, city of light, mucho gusto, and Nick's Go. Pharrell Williams at the finish line. Lenny Kravitz rocks the runway. Snoop Dogg making it rain. A Jennifer Lopez family affair. Vin Diesel found out that cars aren't the only thing that are fast and furious. This runway on the rail.